All right, ready for another deep dive? This time, we're going way back, like way, way back.
Ancient Egypt back.
You got it. Almost 4,000 years ago, to be a little more precise.
Pyramids. Pharaohs. Gotta love ancient Egypt. What's on the agenda for this deep dive?
Well, we're ditching the tombs and the treasures this time. This deep dive is all about the stories.
Ooh, stories. I'm intrigued. What kind of stories are we talking about?
We're diving into a tale called The Shipwrecked Sailor. It's from the 12th Dynasty. Ever heard of it?
Rings a bell, but honestly, I'm due for a refresher. 12th Dynasty, you said. That's seriously old school.
Seriously old school. And you know what's amazing? These stories are like messages in a bottle from across millennia. They give us a peek into how people saw the world back then.
Okay, I'm hooked already. So how does this shipwrecked sailor story go? Set the scene for me.
Imagine this. You're in ancient Egypt, sailing down the Nile.
Sun beating down, maybe a gentle breeze.
Exactly. Maybe you're heading to the mines for the pharaoh, just like the sailor in our story.
Okay, I can picture it. This is no pleasure cruise, though.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Our source material is this incredible book of translated Egyptian tales by W.M. Flinders Petrie. He really captured something special with these translations.
I've skimmed his work before. The guy knew his Egyptian history.
Absolutely. And this story, The Shipwrecked Sailor, it's not just some dry historical account. It's a full-on adventure. We're talking shipwreck, a mysterious island, and get this, a giant talking serpent.
Wait, hold on. Did you say a giant talking serpent? That takes adventure to a whole new level.
You better believe it. And that's just the beginning. So picture this. Our sailor, he's cruising down the Nile. Everything seems fine.
Smooth sailing.
You'd think, right? But bam! This megastorm hits. I'm talking waves over 10 feet high.
Whoa, now that's a storm. The Nile isn't exactly known for its towering waves. Is there any mention of how the Egyptians would have described a storm like that?
Actually, there is. The text specifically says 8 cubits high.
Cubits. That takes me back to history class. Remind me, what's a cubit again?
Good catch. For those who don't have their ancient Egyptian measurement conversion charts handy, a cubit is roughly the length of a forearm.
Ah, right. So we're talking seriously big waves. No wonder this guy gets shipwrecked.
Totally. And guess what? Everyone on board, gone, except for our guy. Can you imagine? Clinging to a piece of wreckage tossed around for days.
Oh man, talk about a bad day at sea.
Understatement of the century. He finally washes up on the shores of this mysterious island.
Okay, mysterious island. Every good ancient Egyptian tale needs one of those, am I right?
Right. But here's the thing about this island. It's described as this total paradise. Fruit trees everywhere, fresh water, the works. It's almost like the ancient Egyptian version of a deserted island spa retreat.
Tempting. But something tells me there's a catch. Ancient Egyptian paradise usually came with a side of beware of something.
Bingo. And this something is a doozy. Our sailor encounters the island's resident, a giant serpent, and not just any serpent.
Okay, I'm picturing a regular-sized serpent right now. Give me the details. How giant are we talking?
The text says 30 cubits long. To put that into perspective, we're talking about a snake almost 50 feet long.
50 feet. Okay, that's not your average garden snake. This is officially terrifying.
Terrifying is an understatement, and it gets even wilder. This serpent, he talks.
A talking 50-foot serpent. The ancient Egyptians sure knew how to crank up the tension. So what does this chatty serpent have to say for himself?
Well, he's not exactly thrilled to have a visitor. Starts off by demanding to know why the sailor is on his island, even threatens to burn him to ashes with his breath. Talk about a warm welcome.
Intense. It makes you wonder about how the ancient Egyptians viewed their deities. Was this serpent supposed to be a god, a demon, something in between?
That's a great question, and it's something we definitely want to unpack a little further. But first, how about we take a quick break, grab a drink, and then dive back into the story. I'm dying to know what happens next. All right, so last we left off, our poor shipwrecked sailor is face to face with this, well, let's just say it, this terrifying talking serpent who's less than thrilled about having a house guest. Did our sailor manage to escape a fiery demise?
Well, let's just say our sailor was clever. He knew how to handle a, let's call it a delicate situation.
Oh, so how did he manage to calm down a 50-foot fire-breathing serpent? I'm on the edge of my seat here.
He appealed to the serpent's ego, of course, praised his power, promised to spread the word about this incredible being when he got back home. A classic case of flattery getting you everywhere, even on a mysterious island with a talking serpent.
Smart move. But there's more to this serpent than meets the eye, right? He wasn't just any serpent, if I recall correctly.
Oh, absolutely not. This wasn't just some giant reptile hanging out on a deserted island. This serpent, He was the ruler of Punt.
Punt. Okay, now we're getting into some serious ancient history. For those of us who might not be experts in ancient geography, what was Punt? Why was it such a big deal to the Egyptians?
Punt was like this land shrouded in mystery. Think frankincense, ebony, gold, all the good stuff. It was a place that was both real and legendary for the Egyptians, associated with incredible wealth and even divine connections.
So the fact that this serpent claims to be the king of Punt, that just adds a whole other layer to his character. It's not every day you meet a giant talking serpent who also happens to be royalty.
Exactly. And here's where it gets even more interesting. You might expect the king of a far-off wealthy land to be, well, a little intimidating, right? But this serpent, he actually does a complete 180.
A 180? You mean he's not going to turn our sailor into serpent chowder?
Not quite. He actually becomes quite accommodating. He spills the tea about his family's 75 other serpents living with him on the island, and even promises to help our sailor return home.
Wow, from fire-breathing threats to family reunions and promises of safe passage home, that's quite a change of pace. This serpent is full of surprises.
Definitely keeps you guessing, right?
Speaking of guessing, I have to know. Does our sailor ever make it back to Egypt? Don't leave us hanging.
Well, that's where things get a little tricky. The papyrus, it's actually damaged at that point in the story. So we don't know for sure what happened. A 4,000-year-old cliffhanger.
You've got to be kidding. Talk about an unresolved plotline. But even without a definitive ending, this tale is full of twists and turns. What do you think this story might have meant to the ancient Egyptians?
It's a great question. On the surface, it's this thrilling adventure, a testament to human resilience. But there's a deeper layer here. The serpent, despite that whole "I'll burn you to a crisp" introduction, he becomes this guide, offering the sailor not just a way home, but also this glimpse into a world beyond his understanding.
It's true. The serpent's role in the story, it's more than just being a character. He represents something bigger, almost like a divine figure.
And that's what I find so fascinating about the ancient Egyptian worldview. Their mythology, their gods, it wasn't something separate from their daily lives. It was woven into the fabric of their existence. Imagine seeing gods and goddesses in everything, the rustling of leaves, the waves crashing on the shore, even in the form of a giant talking serpent on a mysterious island.
It really makes you think about how differently they saw the world compared to us. And that's what we love about these ancient tales, right? They're not just entertainment, they offer a window into the past, into different ways of seeing and understanding the universe.
Absolutely. And they remind us that humans have always been drawn to stories, to these narratives that help us make sense of the world around us, the unknown, the things that both frighten and fascinate us. This tale, despite its fantastical elements, even grounds itself in reality with mentions of real places like Wawat, which we know as Nubia, and Senwut, a region in southern Egypt.
It's like they took their imagination and wove it together with their understanding of their world, creating a story that's both grounded and fantastical, relatable and utterly strange. It's a potent reminder that stories have power. They can transcend time, language, even the loss of a definitive ending on a damaged papyrus.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's the beauty of these deep dives, isn't it? We uncover these fascinating fragments of the past, piece together the narratives, and hopefully walk away with more questions than answers.
And a renewed sense of wonder, perhaps.
Exactly. A sense of wonder and a thirst for more. Which is a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive into ancient Egypt and the enigmatic tale of the shipwrecked sailor.
We hope you've enjoyed this journey through time as much as we have. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and who knows what other fascinating tales we'll uncover together.